This is Colin Let Me Shift to This Cowherd. He likes to brag about working at Fox instead of ESPN while never actually calling out the latter by name, and also fancies himself better at spotting NFL quarterback talent than most NFL scouts. Colin likes to give shitty nicknames to the segments of his show instead of, just doing the segments of his show. No, the irony is not lost on me that I am ripping on this guy for having shitty segment names while performing a YouTube series called Burning Down Strawmen, but, you. Today we're going to take a look at one of my personal favorite Colin Cowherd shitty segments, the herd hierarchy. Instead of just doing a power ranking segment like everyone else, the guy who claims that he is above developing a personal brand, no, I'm not kidding, does a feature on his show called the herd hierarchy, which is nothing more than a personally branded power ranking segment, just like what everyone else does. Going into the 2018 season, Colin had the Falcons pegged as his number one team in the league. His two main justifications: Steve Sarkisian, the Jack Daniels-fueled, skinnier version of Coach Drugs, was going into his second year as offensive coordinator, and two, their offensive line was, quote, the most underrated line in the league, end quote. We'll just see how this all turned out. Atlanta, donning the crown of newly coronated herd hierarchy champions, went out in week 1 and laid down a stinker against Philly. In an abrupt about-face, the former Cowherd MVP candidate, Matt Ryan, was all of a sudden a timid peewee football player who needed to be coaxed onto the field by his own coaches and was, quote, more Andy Dalton than Aaron Rodgers, end quote. I'm not kidding. In the midst of defending this last point in regards to Ryan and Dalton, he actually said, quote, they both have cooler nicknames than they actually are, end quote. This from the guy with awful nicknames for just about everything. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers. Going into 2018, Atlanta was coming off of a solid season. They had finished third in an absolutely stacked division. The NFC South had sent 3 teams to the playoffs. They also lost in the divisional round to the eventual Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm not ripping Col for thinking that 2018 would be a strong season for Hotlanta, but seriously, the best team in the league? The 17 Dirty Birds finished 7th in expected passing points, 8th in passing yards net of sacks, and 9th in passing first downs. They had a seriously dangerous passing game. Their rushing game, on the other hand? 25th in rushing expected points, 8th in rushing first downs, and 13th in rushing yards. Good, solid, above average offense. Defense was where things went south. Their defense couldn't stop a breeze. See what I did there? Which is a problem when the Legion of Boom architect Dan Quinn is your head coach. They were a solid playoff team in 2017, but seriously, there was no major indication that they were going to be world beaters. They weren't even obviously better than the rest of their division, but the 2018 season is where things get really hilarious. Turns out, having an alcoholic college coach as your offensive coordinator isn't always the best idea. The 2018 Atlanta offense sputtered along, fueled by talent and an unhealthy dose of Jack Daniels. The passing offense hopped into the top 5, but that had more to do with them losing 9 games by a combined 90 points than actually being dominant. Turns out, getting your ass beaten on a weekly basis is a pretty good recipe for having a high-ranking passing offense. The rushing offense, meanwhile, was in the basement again. So much for that underrated offensive line, right, Col? Also, it turns out that having to win shootouts isn't all that conducive to establishing the run. The defense, meanwhile, fell off of a fucking cliff. They gave up a whopping 2,000 yards on the ground, and they couldn't get off the field, surrendering a 48.7% third down conversion rate to opposing offenses. The ultimate result? The 2018 Falcons went 7-9 with a disappointing negative 9-point differential and ended up second in an NFC South that was as bad in 2018 as they were good in 2017. I'll leave you with this. If you want your team to actually be good, you better hope Colin doesn't like them. Hey there. Do you want access to the same data analytics that we use here on the YouTube channel? For just $5 a month, you get unlimited access to customizable dashboards and visuals that are so immersive that even my football-hating wife thinks they're kind of cool. Visit cheddarheadanalytics.com for more information and to check out our free live demo.